Yeah, got this one. That one already always works. This
Super.
one.
Oh, fuzzy, fuzzy.
Yeah.
All right, we're live.
Hey guys, welcome everybody today to today's live session. I'm Rahima Wasti, marketing executive at Land Protect. Today we're gonna have an incredibly insightful session lined up with none other than our founder Philip Cutting. So glad to have you here, Philip. We're going to delve into proven hacks from a leading tech entrepreneur on how to build your own platform, whether you're an aspiring entrepreneur or a second professional or a seasoned professional. This session is packed with valuable insights that can help you navigate and excel in the digital world. So glad to have you here.
Thank you, Rahima. I'm so excited to be here and to share these exciting concepts with entrepreneurs and our audience. And I hope it brings a lot of value to everybody because in this discussion today, we're going to talk about the tips and tricks that help get people started with a high velocity to create returns quickly and to prove their business model in the fastest, cheapest way that I've seen it done before. So hopefully this brings a lot of value to our audience.
Great. Let's start with the basics. How to identify market gaps when considering building a new platform.
Okay, great question. So identifying market gaps involves thorough market research, looking at your competitors, looking at existing solutions, and pinpointing where they fall short. You can find these both through using these products yourself and in your personal experience. And you can find these through looking at the comments and reviews that people leave, support tickets, looking on Reddit or whatnot for people trying to find solutions around these problems, right? And
Yeah.
when you find these gaps, right, these are little
Hmm.
nuggets of gold, right? So
Yeah.
for instance, when we developed a CRM system for a law firm, we noticed that many available options didn't cater specifically to the unique needs of legal professionals. So not a lot of people have a lot of exposure to attorneys, but
Yeah.
fortunately or unfortunately, I do. And this might be,
Definitely.
their needs vary, right? So that specific avatar is a lot of fun. And to be honest, any avatar is a lot of fun when you really dive into it if you care about the problems that they go through, right? If you're concerned about the way these guys do business or how to support a certain niche or industry, you'll get into it and you'll have fun as you dive more into the problem set, right? And I'll talk about
Absolutely.
niching more on another call, but it's exciting, right? So by focusing on this particular niche, we're able to create solutions that truly met their demands.
Absolutely. Understanding market needs is definitely very crucial. I also think engaging with your target audience early on can provide invaluable insights. What do you think, Philip?
Oh dear, I couldn't agree more. Early engagement can highlight pain points that exist in existing solutions that aren't being addressed, and it can help you create a clear direction for your platform, business, solution, whatever it is. The earlier you get
Great.
into the weeds with your clients, the better it is. And I'll give a little caveat on this. Some people feel that if they don't provide an amazing solution that wipes everybody out and is totally well rounded, they'll never have a chance. It's not true. If you solve a
Mm-hmm.
particular problem, a particular pain point of people,
Yeah.
you'll start to build that early audience and that velocity. There's always going to be haters out there that say, "Hey, it's
Yes.
neither free or it doesn't do everything I could ever dream of, or its competitors just trying to beat you up to try to keep you out of the market." Don't listen to that. Go in there, solve the little problem as quick as possible, and start getting feedback. And you're going to be amazed at how your process becomes agile and how you solve the problem faster and better and cheaper in the long run.
Great answer to that question. Once you identify a market gap, how do you create a unique value proposition?
This is one of my favorite processes to look at when we're doing discovery, right? So your unique value proposition should clearly articulate why your platform is different and or better than existing solutions. So for example, our learning management system, uh, we call these LMSs in the industry, we emphasize personalized learning paths through robust analytic features. Nowadays, we're integrating artificial intelligence into these systems,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
and uh, we're creating paths and learning processes and even different ways to get people to learn lessons and to learn valuable content quickly versus our older models for learning, right? So we used to live in a world where you give recordings and then you'd have a test, and until you got 60, 100%, you couldn't move on, right? This is an old model, and it doesn't. The reason we used to use this is because we didn't have good systems to analyze if a person is getting the point, to analyze how a person interacts with a system, to see what they're listening, what they're going back over. And we didn't have really creative ways to give people feedback on what they knew and didn't know, other than the old fashioned quizzing methodology, which nobody loves, right? Academics learn to love it, right, through practice and through iteration and get good at testing. But also academics suffer
Agree.
because they have that fear of execution and real life
Yes.
projects, right? So the old model didn't really suffice the problems, right? And I want to articulate that what you hear me say now sounds very different than what I said a moment ago, where you just get the minimum product out and you get out there, right? I don't want you guys starting with the AI into your systems unless it's really required, right? Build your core problem solving solution. If it's using AI, great, right? But the iterations come in the future. You're going to start adding AI. You're going to start adding maybe augmented reality or virtual reality, or you're going to start integrating quizzes or social interactions, right? Just keep that simple
Absolutely
and
right.
start
Yeah.
building up on it. But when you see the long-term value and what you can provide, start simple, work your way there, and don't be afraid to start as simply as possible, but create that value proposition. And don't try to make that value proposition, we do everything under the sun, right? Make that value proposition, we solve this problem in an amazing way, and whatever that amazing way is for your clients. You should know that because you created the problem. And if you're not clear on that, start doing some use cases, start getting a little bit out there and get some case studies. Start talking to your clients and see how it's helping them.
Absolutely right about that question. And that's the key. A strong value proposition can definitely set your platform apart and attract the right audience. Any tips on how to craft this message effectively?
Sure. Just develop your focus and clarity. Your value
Mm-hmm.
proposition should be easy to understand. It should be compelling enough to grab attention quickly, and it should use simple language that emphasizes on the primary benefits or benefits, right? If you can drag it down to one benefit, one simple action that you have to take, and explain the outcome, and if those three things are significant, produce significant results, then you have an amazing value proposition. Now sometimes you're in more complex situations and you have to dive into it more, but as you build those case studies and as you build that
Mm-hmm.
user experience in there, you're going to refine this over time, right? It's really challenging. Don't try to get the perfect value proposition statement right off, right? Don't let that hold you up, right? Define those three questions that I just asked, and you're going to get to this. You're going to iterate on it, but you're going to create this amazing clear statement. If your value statement takes more than like 30 seconds to say, or you have to use complex terminology or words, you should see that it that should be a flag, right? It should be simple enough for a kid or a grandparent to understand, and it should be targeted towards your audience. This is obviously different if you have a niche product that's for engineers, right? In this case, you use their language, or attorneys use their language. So know your avatar, but try to keep it as simple as possible. Even if you're talking to attorneys, they love it when you create simple language, right? Because they
Yeah,
know how to mess with you with language, right? This is for them,
exactly.
this is a
Yes.
game, right? So keep it simple and don't encourage people to mess with you when it comes to this kind of stuff. Give them the value, make it clear, show that you can do it, and you're going to build your audience.
Absolutely correct. And let's move on to development. What's your approach to create a minimum viable product MVP?
Oh, sure. So an MVP should include the core features necessary to address the primary problem that you're solving. If you feel yourself trying to address multiple problems, consider if you can pull back a little bit and focus on one primary problem. And it's about delivering value quickly while gathering user feedback to refine and improve the platform. The more you
Mm-hmm.
have to educate the audience, right, the more complex your MVP is, the less likely it's going to be successful. And the more you're going to have to spend in marketing and in educating your client base. And sometimes it goes so far as you have to create communities and educational content or certifications to do these, right? Now, if you know that ahead of time, great. But if you can avoid all that, you're going to make your app, your platform more successful, and you're going to simplify your
Yes,
life and your marketing, right? And then you can later grow into more advanced products that's going to streamline into this complex system. But even complex systems nowadays have to have a simple path for people to start using it and then grow them into the more complex processes. So don't be afraid
absolutely, exactly.
to
Yeah.
plan complexity, but start with
Mhm.
simplicity. And you know, it all comes down to your market and your audience, right? So for our $1 million Shopify store for clothing, the MVP focused on sleek user interface where we had an efficient checkout process. We had the ability to show desire, to show um, fashion, right? To show the models, to show what was inside that industry and what was particular for that particular clothing industry, right?
Exactly.
When it comes down to these big projects, the
Mm.
and Shopify is amazing, right? I there's
Yes,
sometimes when I'm like, I know you want a custom app, but based off what you're saying, we should do a Shopify platform for you and build the luxury around that, build the marketing, build the whole process around that. That's going to build that brand. If your brand is this, right? Everybody has different brands. Some of our most successful Shopify processes systems have been for electronic shops where it's not about glamour, but it's about the technical ease and the owner's ability to communicate the value of these products, to share his insights, how he created certain, how he created things himself and shared that with his community, right? And he, without really focusing on community, he created community just through his own passions, right? Other examples are where there was healthcare products. One of the ugliest websites ever created, and against my own intuition, but it made sense,
mm-hmm.
was for healthcare products, right? So
Okay.
sometimes
Yeah,
it's not about having the most attractive and sleek and sexy thing. It's about knowing what your audience is looking for. So if you are delivering, in this case, it was healthcare products. If we had went too shiny, right, it would
mm-hmm.
have
Yeah,
offset the customers. They would have said, no, they're looking for too much money. I want to kind of do this, right? The this one I'm talking about, this guy's making like $1 million a week, right? And on this ugly website, but it's all about him and communicating and the videos and the passion that he has in there, right? So the beauty of the MVP is you get to see what's driving your audience. And you might be so surprised what it is that it's totally counterintuitive. But had you gone through and created a beautiful, spent $1 million on a website, done the whole marketing campaign, made this ultra sleek website, and your audience isn't into that, then you just threw all that away. But if you
Yeah,
started with this simple MVP that is sleek, is efficient, gets some feedback going, right? Include your audience while you're building it, right? Get out that minimum product, get the audience interaction, get your customers going, seeing who's really buying your stuff, doing some split testing, right? This is the way to get yourself to success if
exactly.
you're looking for returns on economy. Right now, there's other
Great.
times you're looking for fame, you're looking to build your brand, you're doing a presidential campaign or some kind of political campaigns. These are very different outcomes. Know what the outcomes are and plan for that, but still try to get that MVP out there as early as possible. I'm
That's
sorry guys, I
definitely.
ran on a tangent.
It's
I
fine.
love MVPs.
That's definitely a solid approach to that, to MVPs. I've seen company investing in fully developed and fully completely good products without even testing them first. And MVP allows the flexibility and adjustment based on real world feedback. That is absolutely true about it.
Yeah, actually, exactly. This process is about being agile, responsive,
Yes.
looking at the needs of your users and trying to get that right from the start, knowing that you can never do anything perfect from the start. So be be wrong fast and be wrong with minimal
Mhm.
cost, but take that risk, try to be right. Right, we always try to be right. We always assume what we do is the exact best solution, but if you're going to be wrong, and we're going to be wrong more than half the time otherwise, we'd just be rich from the stock market, right? So when we know we're going to be wrong more than half the time, then let us try to be wrong quickly to learn from those mistakes with minimal costs, with minimal risks, and adapt quickly.
Yes. Agreed. And speaking of agility, how do you leverage agile development in your projects?
Sure. So agile development process is where you focus on iterative progress and continuous improvements. It involves breaking down the project in smaller tasks and delivering them in short cycles known as sprints. And this allows for
Mhm.
regular feedback and adjustments, ensuring that the process stays aligned with the user needs and market demands. So in our process, it depends on budget, right? Agile is more expensive than, say, a waterfall or a fully structured out project, right? Agile means
Mhm.
that you're going to make a plan, you're going to
Yeah.
put it out there, and then you're going to see what happens and respond to that, right? So if you may have to plan for spending more money than you would for what looks like a fixed project base, but in the long run, if your goal is not to get a project out delivered successfully, but if the success is determined by how much money you make from your business, then agile is way better. Now, in our process, if we're given this freedom, if we're, it's sometimes it makes sense and sometimes it doesn't, right? I say like 85% of the time you want to do agile. But let's not confuse that. You still have to, in the very beginning, get out that MVP, right? So define that
Yeah.
MVP in as simple way as possible, get that out there. And now once you start getting feedback, go agile, a strong agile approach, extreme programming, Scrum, you name it. There's like 4 or 5 solid agile approaches out there that you can use. And you may change them at different phases, right? But get that product out there as quick as possible, then keep that agile mindset going so that you can get that feedback. There are pitfalls to feedback, right? Taking the wrong feedback early on can really cause you to take some weird directions. And the way you avoid that is by doing
Mhm.
some split testing and using really good analytics to help support your agile process. And there's one thing that we don't talk about often in agile, which is the key to agile is that we delegate down the stream uh, decision making and process development processes. So the best part of agile isn't that you're doing 2 week sprints or you're getting short sections of work, is that you're getting all the people on your team, or at least the key decision makers on the team with the key talent to analyze the data that you're getting, to make quick responses and quick changes based off of that. You're
Yeah.
maximizing your talent pool. That's the best thing about Agile.
Yes. Agile methodologies also foster collaboration and adaptability, which are essential in today's fast-paced digital environment. How important is team communication in this process?
It's vital. It's vital. Regular communication and transparency within the team is what ensures that you're getting that feedback from the team and using everybody's talents, and that people are not getting what's the right way to say this? You want to allow failure in your team, and when failure happens, it should be considered a learning experience. It should not
Yeah,
be,
learning.
I'm blaming Phil because he said that we should try to use video instead of just straight text, right? There's times when we're going to be wrong, and you want to respond to that quickly and say, hey, cool, Phil, your idea was trash, right? And let's look at why it was trash. And you can say this to me, right? I wouldn't want to say this to one of my teammates because that's too rough, right? But you can use the sarcasm with me, right? And as long as it comes with the Phil, this idea was trash. What can we learn? Why do we think it didn't go well versus this other test that we run? Just our standard text, right? And we look into it, and we should learn something from that. Every failure should teach you something. And this is the beauty of going agile and incorporating your team, having these open communications, and maintain that fast-paced digital environment where we're learning, we're integrating, we're testing, we're making assumptions. We call it making assumptions. In science, you call it a thesis, and testing that thesis. And we're learning from every step of the way. There's a whole nother topic on saving learning and lessons and how to phase those out over time, because today's lesson may change and may not be valid tomorrow, right? Your audience matures, your audience changes. So the assumption of today may totally change tomorrow. And agile processes are just amazing at teasing this out. It is easy to fall out of true agile processes as you mature, but if you can keep that philosophy going and maintain that healthy, loving, aggressive environment, right? Maybe I shouldn't use the word aggressive. I consider it aggressive because it's intense, it's fun, it's you're learning, you're falling, you're standing back up. It's like learning to ride a motorcycle, right? You do little things, you get a little better at it, and before you know it, you're on a rocket.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. Let's talk about people behind the platform. How do you like building a strong team, and how do you do
Oh,
it?
this is one of my, I want to say it's one of my strengths and one of my weaknesses.
Mhm.
Building strong teams, it involves community, involves a lot of communication, it involves talking to lots of people. It involves having a good vision and being clear about your values, and having a good cultural statement, right? It's recruiting. It is it is a lot. It's a full-time job finding and building a good, strong team, right? Inside our company, we do interviews every week with people, and
All right.
we're looking for the best talent. We're looking for partners, right? We're looking
Yeah.
to see where we can improve our systems, and we're always looking to find that next best talent that's going to take us to the next level with our clients or with a particular system or process, right? So it involves hiring these individuals with complementary skills and shared visions, but not always complementary, right? Sometimes it's replacing myself. Sometimes it's finding somebody that's doing what I'm doing and does it better or does it different. And maybe different is better. So you
Mhm.
don't know this until you interview with people, until you do some research, until you interact and take the risks, right? And once you've had this vision, you're communicating with people, people know what you stand for. They're going, and if you're a real leader, and I don't talk about leadership a lot, but being a leader and doing the same things I talk about on other calls of uh, teaching, of sharing
Yes,
your vision, of having values and having a mission, this is going to attract strong talent, and this is going to bring those people to you, and having that clearly defined and stated and out in the world is going to make your life so easy when building a strong team, because people with the same vision are going to come to you, and it's going to, you want people that want this vision, not who just want money, right? You got to pay them, right? Because good talent has to get paid, right? They got to feed themselves, they
yeah,
got to feed their family. But assuming you have the ability to feed them the way they need to be fed, it's that passion energy that keeps them going, that vision. And just sometimes it's even the project that will bring people on. Some of we've had people come to us because talent come to us because some of these projects we produce are just amazing, and they want to be part of products like this because we're 100% successful, right? And success drives success, right? And we challenge our guys. Our guys are challenged. They challenge us. They challenge our clients to get to the next level, right? Our clients are like, what about this
yes,
idea, right? And we're like, okay, cool, that's impossible. Now we're going to go solve that, right? And it's a oxymoron, right? It sounds hypocritical, but sometimes the right talent can make the impossible thing possible, right? Knowing that ahead
exactly.
of time is some risks, right? So it takes the right client to know that this is risky. Do you want to continue in anyways? And and this is what entrepreneurship is. Entrepreneurs know when their concept is risky. And if you don't know if your concept is risky, talk to 3, 4, 5 developers. Talk to see what's out in the
Mhm.
market, right? If you can't find a similar product out there, even closely, then you know you might be taking on some risk. Use your intuition, right? Have some fun with it. And just look for those developers, designers, creators that are passionate about creating that transformative experience that you're looking to bring, and that gap you're looking to fill.
Definitely applies. Teams can guide you to a successful project, but what qualities do you really value in your team members?
So for me, I look for adaptability, creativity, a proactive approach. I want people that love to learn, that not say they love to learn, who don't have tons of diplomas. I don't care about diplomas. I want to see that you have an attitude that says, I can learn this. Uh, Part of my process is learning, right? And if you push
Yes,
back on me and say, hey, Phil, I really value learning, and what do you have that helps me support that? I'm going to have an answer for you, right? In my industry, in my the way I do it is I try to give the my teammates the freedom to work as much as they want, to
hmm,
both have enough, so much income, right? Sufficient income that they can both support themselves and have extra for education, for professional growth and development. And often I'm part of that. Often I will be challenging them and teaching them because I'm an old dog, right? So I generally have for most of the guys, I have more experience, or I know what direction to take these guys in, and I can challenge them in that direction. I am blessed nowadays by having guys on my team that specialize in things that are above me, that are way more efficient than me. But even with all of those guys that are even better, specific skill sets, which is the reason I hired them, is that I can guide them, they guide me, and we multiply our talents and grow together. It's when you get this, you have it. When you're interviewing somebody and you're learning in that interview and they're
hmm,
engaged and you feel that electricity, you hire that guy, right, or girl, and you have a great, it brings so much energy. So it takes thinking outside the box. It takes being brave enough to have that open discussion, asking those open-ended questions, and having, your own style, right? I mix in my interviews, I'll mix in some humor. I want to see if the guy that I'm dealing with has a little bit of a humor, or if he can take my jokes, right? Because, you know me, right? There's a little bit of sarcasm in there. There's a lot of jokes. You got to kind of swim in between when I'm, making a terrible joke or sarcasm, and to still kind of have fun with that, right?
Yes,
So if you're interviewing, let your style be shine, right? And if you're interviewing with companies, right, make sure you get an interview with that key person that you're going to be working with. So sometimes you don't always interview with the people that you're going to be working for. Sometimes it's HR doing the initial interview, or it's other developers that doing some interviews, right? But try to talk to those key stakeholders to see who you're going to be working with and see if you like working with them. And for
exactly.
entrepreneurs,
Mhm.
there's a double-edged sword on this, right? You want to make sure you want to talk to, for example, you want to talk to me, you want to talk to one or two other guys on my team, right? Now, if it's a 10, 30, or $50,000 project, don't get into that depth, right? But if it's a long-term relationship, if it's a $200,000, $500,000 project, million plus project, yeah, get to know some of the team, see who you're going to be dealing with, and make sure you're having fun with those guys. Make sure it jives. Make sure that they're pushing back with you appropriately, right? And that the voices out there, that you understand their style and the process, right? And make sure that the values match with what you're trying to achieve, and make sure that their goals are the same as your goals.
Exactly. You're absolutely right about the fact that technology choices are definitely very critical. How do you ensure the technologies you use are scalable?
Yeah. So scalability most of the time is important. Sometimes it's
Mhm.
not, right? Sometimes, let's say like this. I have a recent app, and it is a medical process on how to work with people with psychological needs, right? There's a fixed size audience for that intended project, right?
Right.
It's it's not going to be more than 1 million users, right? So this, you have to make sure that your concept will scale well enough for that, but it's not going to be like Facebook, where you need to scale indefinitely, right? So know your target audience, right? And if you need that scalable solution, right, plan for that early. Put it on AWS or whatever tech stack makes sense, and go from there. But part of your process needs to be making sure that the technology you're going to use is scalable enough to get you at least 5 years down the road, right? Now, systems tend to change every design changes every couple of years, right? People's design aesthetic.
Exactly
If
that.
you have a
Yes.
website or an app, you need to kind of keep it fresh every couple of years. If you
Mhm.
or just continuously keep it fresh, right? You don't want to do with apps. You don't want to have big shocking changes, right? This can cause you a loss of community. But if you have a shopping platform or a website with a service, you can do uh, hard updates every 2 years, depending on your audience, right? And sometimes you want to plan that in, depending on your audience, right? There's been times where companies have, even for websites, they've done a fresh look, improved the whole system, and they've lost a lot of customers because they just couldn't adapt, right? No, if your audience is older or less tech savvy, then you want to be more cautious on how you do design updates, right? So plan for this. Also plan to regress well, right? There's one thing to be able to make modern quick changes. There's the other thing to allow customers to maintain their comfortable environments and to let them gradually phase into a better experience, right? It's a really hard balance to do, and it comes with split testing. This is generally how you'll discover that if you have to get into that. Case studies also. If you don't have a big audience yet, you don't worry about that so much. You plan to get out there, do what has to be done in the most effective way, and it's a process, right? So this means selecting platforms and tools that can handle increased traffic and data without compromising on performance. That's easy nowadays, right? There is VPS solutions. There's cloud solutions. Sure, VPS is cloud, but by cloud, I'm talking about paying for resources, right? So AWS is a great cloud example where you can automatically add resources to have distributed locations, right? This is a great service. HostGator, Bluehost, A2. I'm a big fan of A2 recently, where you can get a VPS, you can scale it up some or scale it down to a certain degree, right? And it's a cost-effective way that makes sense, but it doesn't scale as infinitely, in my opinion, A2, as AWS does, right? So know those technologies and where they have value. This is a discussion the developers should be having with the stakeholders. And in my experience, this same discussion I just had with you and these fundamental concepts are the same discussions I'd have with any of my stakeholders, right? Any developer should be having these discussions. If your developers aren't talking like this with you, if they're saying, no, your product just needs to be like this, right, and not telling you why, you need to wonder if they don't understand those other platforms, because somebody that understands those platforms is going to say, okay, hey, here's plus and minuses of this and that, right? And I recommend going this way. Do you have more questions? A lot of times stakeholders will be like, no, I trust you. I don't even want to hear this, right? I get that all the time. Phil, it's good enough answer. Just go, right? I trust you. And that's cool. I still want to explain some of the differences so that it's in the back of your head for future growth, right? So for example, for our CRM, we use cloud-based solutions where we ensure scalability and flexibility for these products. Now we also have our own kind of in the box CRM that we put on virtual machines for companies that plan to have a less aggressive growth plan for first 5 or 10 years for first 5 years, right? If you're and just like I said, if you're not going to have more than 1 or 10 million users in your first 5 years, right? Keep it as simple as possible so that you can focus on marketing, focus on growth, and then re-engineer the product to go on some of the cloud processes. If you plan it ahead of time and into the engineering, you have a lot of flexibility. There's a lot of flexibility when you plan the system right. These are complex. These are complex topics.
Yeah, but it certainly is one. And let's talk about your management of your projects. How do you manage your projects effectively to ensure timely and successful delivery?
Oh, sure. So effective project management involves clear planning, setting realistic timelines with regular progress monitoring, right? So using project management tools can help you track tasks, deadlines, and responsibilities and flex accordingly, right? So it's also important to remain flexible and adapt to changes as they arise. There's one consistent thing. Things change. Google recently has changed the way that we do SSO, right? Single sign-on. So if you're familiar in what SSO or single sign-on is, if you go to a website or an app and it says sign in with Google or sign in with Apple or Facebook, this is SSO. Now, Google has recently required that we create video walkthroughs of the apps or websites so they can validate what their SSO is being used or abused for, right? I'm sure now that they start doing it, all these other systems are going to require it, but nobody up to now has required a video walkthrough of your app, right? So things change out of nowhere and you got to be able to adjust to that. And if you have a tight deadline, a realistic tight deadline, not I want to have this out by Monday just because the sky is going to be bluer on Monday, right? But if I have to have this out by Monday because there's a press release or there's a marketing campaign launching, then we have to see if we can sacrifice other features, if we have to bring in more talent to execute in time, if it's possible in the first place, and what are the risks associated and how to deal with unknown hazards, right? And these approaches come with having flexibility, having clear communications, and having tools that make that readily available for you.
Yes, you're absolutely right about that. That tools like Trello, Asana, and Jira can streamline the process and keep everyone accountable. How do you handle unexpected challenges during the project?
Yeah, good question. So it starts with open communication and a problem-solving mindset. You
Mhm.
want to address issues promptly. You want to involve the team in finding better immediate solutions, and have the ability to adjust plans. And it's about staying proactive to being resilient. There's a concept of, so in military operations, right? They found
Mhm.
that if the leadership gets a mission and
Yeah.
they have a deadline of say 7 days, um,
Mhm.
or even say 5 days, right? Say 5 days. This breaks up the math easier. Each day is 20%. They take 20% of their time to create a base plan and to give a quick mission heads up. And
Mhm.
they then say, okay, in the first day, they plan, they get the resources available that they know they have, and they get all the data they have. They pass down a warning order to the teams below them. Now, these squads or companies or whatever, these people below them have 4 days to get ready. They may not have all the details, and there might be a lot of questions, right? But they have 80% of the time to prepare. Now, in that, the administrative features, leaders of the military group would go and make further refinement. They're going to use their high level resources. They're going to get the satellite pictures. They're going to start getting resources moved around. They're going to start, getting whatever is needed, and they're going to start disseminating information down in bite-sized packets. They're not going to send like every 5 minutes updates, but every day they're going to send an update unless there's a critical change, right? And then this is going to allow the team below them to be more creative. This is particularly powerful in manufacturing and in software development, where you use an agile process and you give the key. If I, as a lead engineer, have 5 days to work on a solution, I can take 4 days, write out the whole solution for the guys, and have them execute in one day, right? And all the risk is on me, and I'm totally forgetting about all the talent that the team below me has, and I'm taking away their ability to sandbox, to practice, to experiment, and to see what kind of solutions they come up with, right? I may come up with this elaborate solution, and that requires lasers and fine optics and this amazing hardware, and it's going to be great, right? But they may come in and say, yeah, with this simple plug-in and a screwdriver, I can fix the problem on day 2, right? And and if I did the old-fashioned way, I'm like halfway through my initial planning. So this is really what it comes about: being agile, being flexible, and using the team below, your teams and your talent to solve problems. And it allows both the people above you, the people above them, to see if it makes sense, see if this is better, and to have the flexibility to adapt and to compromise. Sometimes there is a risk in this that it can be more expensive in the long run, but it's sometimes necessary if you're in an environment that is largely unknown. For doing AI apps nowadays, this is super critical, right? Because what we have AI systems that are being built in process,
Yeah.
and there is documentation that might already be outdated and
Mm-hmm.
constraints
Yes.
that we may not know of and that the systems themselves may not know until you start executing on that and start load testing and balancing that. So we're in a world that it's not like the 80s anymore where we're just dealing with screws and sockets and the Jetsons. We're now dealing with unknowns and venturing, and we're kind of in this fiction that anything is possible
Yes.
without limits, right? Because we have the talent nowadays that makes it look that way, right? So the
Absolutely.
it's important for us developers and engineers to maintain that kind of authenticity and that grace that says we believe this, we may be wrong sometimes, and just be ready for that, right? And we're going to be flexible. We're all humans. Let's work together. And this philosophy goes both ways. It goes with the stakeholders that want us to try something because they have a vision, and we developers might be uncomfortable because we haven't done that before, and there's risk to our ego and reputation if we say, okay, we'll try that, and if we end up we can't do that the way that we want to, right? So it's a double-edged sword, and through agile processes, we kind of dull that sword down while being able to cut through things better than ever.
Yes, you're right about that. And engaging early adopters can be definitely a game changer. How do you approach this?
Oh, early adopters are like gold. We love these guys, right? They're invaluable for gathering feedback, for generating initial buzz, for helping us come up with solutions that we would have never thought of. These guys are energetic, they're passionate, they're desperate, or they're just in love with the problem and the solution, right? So
Yeah.
take a take advantage of these guys, right? Love on these guys and listen to their feedback and engage them. I can't state lightly enough how much you really want to love on your early adopters, how these guys can become your super fans and will bleed and fight for you a lot of times if they're heard or if you're
Exactly.
delivering their need, right? There's a story of, like, if a guy's hair is on fire, right? He's going to
Hmm.
be an early adopter of putting out fire, even if that solution is a bucket of mud, right?
Yes, you're right about
So,
that. Yeah, yeah,
so um, use these early adopters because they have high energy. They're also realizing it's not a perfect solution, but it's helping them. And if you're going to engage them, it only makes it better for them. Offer incentives such as exclusive access or special features to encourage participation and feedback. Um, for our Shopify stores, a lot of times we'll engage fashion influencers early to test and promote our products. We want to,
yeah.
because we have a little bit of reputation, right? We're able to get some influencers or some key people in there earlier to get feedback, to build energy, right? And sometimes it's just a matter of luck of who you get in there. Now, stakeholders, look for these guys also, right? Try to find people that have the same vision and that you can bring in and to bring energy to your products just as we do to ours. And it's both fun, it's exciting, right? And the best thing that is largely overlooked is when you can bring in like we
Mhm.
did, a fashion influencer or
Yeah.
a health influencer, right? That they give you confirmation that you're on the right path, right?
Yes,
And
definitely. Yeah, they're
it's
like
early
adapters.
signs. Yeah, it just makes you feel great, right?
Yeah.
Every time we get this kind of influencer engaged with our products, the stakeholders glow, right? They feel validated, and it's early validation, right? It may not be complete, but it's a great sign that you're on track. It feels amazing, and um, it's not that much more work then you're already putting into it to find these guys. So I highly encourage everybody to try to do that. This is like one of those secret tips.
Yeah, they really help you to spread the word. I've seen that. What are some effective strategies for engaging them?
Oh yeah. So what I'd like to do is personalize our approach
Mm-hmm.
to specific influencers, or to listen to their feedback and make them feel valued. Uh, it's really about building strong relationships with these early adapters or influencers that can lead to this long-term advocacy and loyalty, and to ultimately super fans. The you see on the book behind me, Super Fans, he talks about this a
Yes.
lot. Let me just grab that book. This is one of Pat Flynn's books that I really like. It's a shout out. He's not endorsing me. He doesn't even know who I am. Maybe until after today, right? Pat Flynn, Super Fans. I really encourage it. It talks a lot about the same concepts and is absolutely invaluable. So, what's the next thing is? The next thing is you have to be ready to talk to people, right? So if you're spending the kind of money you need to spend on making a successful app and marketing it, be brave, get
Yeah.
out there, talk to some of these guys, and you'll be surprised the kind of warm welcoming you'll get when you've refined your message and you understand your value proposition. Right. That's why one of the very first things we do is try to tease out that value proposition. We refine it over time. Right. But this is your leadership skill. This is how you get out there and you impress and influence and inspire people.
Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. And user feedback is definitely very essential for continuous improvement. How do you gather to utilize it?
Oh, this is okay. So this is hard, but don't be scared of it. Right. It's not
Mhm.
that hard. Right. And you don't have to be that brave to do it. And you don't have to be an extrovert to do this. Right. So collect feedback through surveys, through user testing, talk to your early adapters, direct communication, right? Analyze this feedback, get analytics, get every piece of information that you can, and meditate on that, right? Look for trends, look for areas that improve, look for negative feedback, look for positive feedback, right? Don't
Yeah.
just look for positive feedback, but love on that negative feedback, because that's where your gold is. And it's hard on the ego sometimes to hear negative
It's
feedback.
gonna help you get longer way,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, but there's nothing better than it, right? We need it,
Yeah.
right? We need our mother to say, while you are my favorite son or daughter, you're not that pretty, right?
Yo, yeah.
um my parents used to say, Phil, you're too smart for your own good, but you ain't that smart, right?
Wow. That's
Yeah, yeah.
lovely.
So it's okay, right? You have to have this honest feedback, and sometimes you have to look for this honest feedback yourself, because the people around you love you and don't want to hurt you, right? Or they don't feel like they have permission to do this. And uh, even if you feel like you've given people permission to do this, it's still hard. So still go out there, look for this honest feedback, surveys, questionnaires, interviews, direct communication, right? Always go out there and try to find the unstated feedback, which is analytics, the stated feedback, which is surveys, questionnaires, and interviews, and implement changes based off of these insights, and keep users informed about where you're going, about what you think you see, right? Make an assumption and put it in your community. Say, hey, you can't do this. It's hard to do this for MVP, right? You can, it's hard, right? I know there's a lot of people that say, hey, go out there, do this whole thing before you even launch. I'd rather, I like this. I don't want you carried away with this. I want to see you put out an MVP out there, not just because I'm building the MVPs, but because people can't vision something, right? If you take somebody into a burned down house, they can't see a beautiful house with granite countertops and a silver, cast iron stove and a fridge and granite floors and tiling and, all the, they can't see beauty, right? No, almost nobody can. But with a simple MVP, people can see where you're going. Then you can say, here's where I'm heading, right? And you can put this out there and get this feedback. And don't be afraid to do that. Don't think like competition is going to beat me to anything, right? If you're thinking of it, somebody else is already. Execute fast and steal their lunch, right? But nobody's going to. It's very rare that somebody steals your lunch if you're executing fast, if you're getting feedback, if you know your niche, if you know your value proposition, if you have company values, and if you're solving a real problem.
Yeah, it really shows that you value their input as well, and you're committed to like give best delivery possible experience as well. So, how do you ensure the continuous improvement and iteration of your platform?
Oh, it just has to be built into your philosophy, right? And continuous improvement involves regular updates, refining your platform based on user feedback, technology advances, surveys, interviews, and your own creativity of where you think that platform or app should go. And it's important to have a dedicated team for monitoring this performance and implementing these changes, right? You can't nowadays, you can get to an MVP just by having some code monkeys, right? But once you have that product out there, you really need to have a good team to look at the data to see where to go. And there's going to be trial and error in there, right? You're going to sometimes do a 180 on what you thought was right because you're getting feedback, and you're going to discover something that says, this is really how I should solve my problem, or this is how I bring value, or this is how I execute on my vision. And it's just important to have that dedicated team, no matter how large or small that is, to continuously adapt and grow your platform. For our LSM, we regularly update features based off of feedback from educators, from students. We integrate technology, right? Obviously, AI is the biggest change in the way we're looking at things right now. It used to be machine learning, right? Now it's growing into feedback channels, into changing the way that we teach or how we learn. And the expectations are rapidly changing. And we're now even better able to analyze data, not just ourselves, but with AI, to see what's going on, to get feedback, and to help our students improve. An example, right? For we have analytics on how a user is going through lessons. We can see where they're going back over a video over and over, right? This is obviously a place where AI systems can pick up this trend for the students and nowadays create specialized content on that, diving into the topic to spontaneously ask some questions or do an instant survey to say, hey, what do you think is going on? Or here's 2 or 3 options. And the fourth is it something else that you need help on? Allowing them to interact, allowing them to see if they know what is right, or to see if your assumptions are totally wrong. Right?
Yes,
We're looking at getting feedback in new ways, right? And triggering that feedback in new ways. It's very exciting what we're coming up with nowadays. With augmented reality and virtual reality coming up the way it's coming up, I see even more ability to to automate this learning process based off of facial recognition, based off of where people are getting hung up and how they breathe, or how we monitor stress and anxiety, how we look at a person's heart rate to see if there's fear or excitement, right? I'm looking for excitement to say, hey, this person loves this topic. How can I take them deeper down this learning path that's going to inspire them and to maybe create a professional that the world has never seen, because we found his passion, and we've taken them down
Yeah.
this rabbit trail that isn't a waste of time, but this trail of excitement and journey and customized experience that's going to make Leonardo, right,
Yeah, it keeps the
something
platform
unique.
relevant and competitive as well.
Yeah, and I'm excited because we are going to be able to take people down niches. Before you would talk to your teachers or guidance counselors and say, what do I do? And they're like, okay, yeah, we know you, Phil, and you like programming, so you should go to this school and um, learn to be a computer programmer, right? But now we can just cut out the whole education system, right? And say, Phil, we see that, yeah, you like programming. Okay, cool. So the system like gets me a little programming, and then as I'm excited about IoT devices, as I'm excited about the field in medical science, it can take me not just down programming, right, like my old infrastructure used to do, but it can take me down medical science and the core medical concepts I have to understand to build these
Yeah,
technical devices that's going to change the world. So I am so
definitely.
excited for how innovation is going to become something we've never seen before.
Well, you will be saying there. And how do you really prioritize which improvement to implement?
So for me, prioritization is based on impact and feasibility. I look
Mhm.
at in my mind, and sometimes I'll chart this out, and I encourage my stakeholders to chart this out if they're, especially when they're looking for financing, right? So investors love it when you do this, right? So I'm going to talk about kind of both processes. Um, when I'm looking for investors, I'll put on a piece of paper a grid that says uh, potential return on investment, uh,
Mhm.
uh, return high, low, difficulty high, low, and it creates a grid, right? I may use other concepts and other values, but that's kind of like the easy version, right? The third axis you should have is difficulty. Is it high or low, right? So what I'm looking for is something that's going to have high impact on the user, that's going to have a high return on investment, and it's going to be easy to do, right? And
All right, great.
everything, like, that's my golden egg, right? And I'm trying to then go down the opposite there, because you have to perform work that's not pretty sometimes, right? But I want
Yeah.
to get as much of that high return as possible, start in the top of the cone and work my way down to fill out the product and make it more mature, right? So that's what I do in my head. If you're looking for investors, you do that on paper, and when you're doing the discovery process, you should have some kind of um, process like this. Now, if it's a cheaper discovery process, right, you're looking at only spending 10-20% of the budget on the whole project. You're going to kind of do it intuitively. You're going to set priorities, and you're going to go through there. You're still looking at your MVP generally, right? Or you're looking at future refinements, and you're going through the process. So this is my way of looking at it and prioritizing, having those
Yeah.
metrics. It's hard to do in the
Mm.
beginning, but as you get better at it, gets easier and it gets intuitive. Now, here's the risks. You make assumptions that this is going to be easy to do. It turns out to be impossible, right? It happens.
Okay.
You got to implement every feature in the simplest way possible and iterate on that to make it better, to make it more refined, and to make it more accurate or easier to use as you go. You should know what your priorities are. Part of the metric matrix on this is knowing your key values and your KPIs ahead of time.
Great. And what about monetization, as it is quite crucial for sustainability? What are some effective monetization strategies that you would suggest us?
Oh, monetization is a lot of fun. Um, Effective monetization strategies vary based off of the platform type, off of your key market, off of your target
Mhm.
demographic, right? It and it also requires a lot of trial and error. Netflix, right, is a great example where Netflix started off as kind of like a remote blockbuster. They'd rent out DVDs, and if there's late, then you get paid. You have to pay fees. They knew ahead of time that people hated this, right? This was part of uh, their market gap that they analyzed early on, but they didn't execute on it. But they got feedback, and they're like, yeah, we also hate this. Like, what the heck are we doing? They they wandered into the subscription model. Now, this is back when subscription models weren't a popular thing, right? These guys probably are the ones that you can thank for your Adobe subscription or every other
That
software
is
service being a
that.
subscription. You can't buy a single thing anymore, right? But
Yeah.
they wandered onto it, and it has value. And you need to have an open heart, an open mind that allows you to try something and to grow from it. Um, Offering tiered subscriptions, offering lifetime subscriptions, offering
Mm.
limited multi-year subscriptions is a lesser version of a lifetime subscription that I like to go for. It's getting harder and harder to offer a true lifetime subscription, one-time lifetime subscription. Why? Because almost everything nowadays relies on cloud services, which have continuous cost, right? Now, look at your product and say, is there something here that I can say these features I can give you for a lifetime subscription of this? And if those provide significant value, that's great. But if it doesn't provide significant value, don't even offer in the first place, right? It feels like a gimmick if the lifetime subscription that you're offering doesn't have huge value, right? But also, um, almost everybody who does a lifetime subscription regrets it later, right? But it's one thing to regret a choice later and just not make as much money as you could versus not getting started in the first place. So there's a balance, right, in that trial and error.
Yeah.
And what are the costs associated with this? That's why I like to say, hey, this is on these features, it's a lifetime subscription, or on these features, it's a 3 years unlimited subscription promotion. Here it is, right? And you kind of get your voice out there. What's important for this is to look at what the competition is doing, to see if you have room for creativity, to do some split testing. I know you guys are probably tired of this call and me saying split test, split test, split test, but split test it, right? And see what's going to get you action out there. And sometimes you make some sacrifice to get users going and get velocity. Velocity is huge, right? Don't overlook that the value of coming in strong, of getting velocity, of showing all the platforms, the App Store and the Google Play Store and Google Space or Ducket or you name it, right? See what you can do to bring value and to be amazing.
Yeah, exactly. And flexibility in monetization can cater to different user needs and maximize a revenue. How do you balance monetization with the user's satisfaction?
It's a good question. So I want to ensure that your monetization strategies provide value and are not intrusive and that you're going to be able to afford them, right? So free trials or basic versions attract users. Then incentives, upgrades, have value added and a la carte items that you can to help monetize that.
Yeah.
There's a little bit of buzz on the audio
And
feedback.
can you hear me properly now?
Can you hear the buzz, dear?
Mm, Not really.
It sounds like there's a lawnmower in the back or a
Oh,
fan.
wait a second. Wait a second. I'm gonna fix. Um, hey, can you hear me better now?
Yeah, it's better. Thank you, dear.
All right. We're gonna open to the audience as well now. So I'm gonna give you a few questions. Can you share an example of a feature or idea that didn't work as expected, and what did you learn from it?
I'm sorry, say that again, dear.
Can you share an example of a feature or idea that didn't work as expected, and what you learned from it?
Oh, okay. Yeah. Uh, this is a good one. So Euphoria is a new app that we're working on. It's a meditation app, and it uses AI, and it uses text to voice and in some new and multiple AI technologies, right? So it has music, it has AI music, AI voice to text to voice, AI content generation in some regards, and it's applying a whole nest of technologies.
All right.
The beginning suite that we used, they said that there were constraints and features inside those products that didn't actually work the way they said it would. So when we
Okay.
started executing, it was both too expensive and didn't perform well. I'm not going to call out the AI company that was like that, but just be prepared for that, right? And
Mhm.
over time, we found other solutions, trial and error, right? And through sandboxing, through testing, right, we found better solutions. And it's a matter of being agile, of being able to create your software in ways that you have multiple choices and backup solutions that makes it that you have the flexibility to deal with chaos that's going to come up.
So great answer to that question. And the next one is, how do you build and lead a successful team when starting a new platform?
Oh, that's a fun question. So the most important thing, there's two important things. First of all, making sure that you're properly financed to start a project. Then you want to make sure that you have a clear vision so that as you start, you have a clear path and that you're bring energy without having to reproduce work and backtrack, right? And
Yeah.
now you, while going agile, you have the ability to test things, to see what's working, right? But the most important thing in the very first stages of team
Yeah.
building, make sure you have the money, make sure you find the talent that's in vision with you, make
Okay.
sure that you have a clear leadership style and are transparent about that, and rely on the people that you hire and decide, are you a leader that's going to micromanage, and make sure the people that you hire can be micromanaged. Because if this is your thing, right, then, and if you're a micromanaging guy, some people love that, right? Some developers like, cool, I just want to code the way you tell me to. You took out all the stress, right?
Yeah.
Make sure you lead like that and make sure you know. But some developers are like, wow, I didn't expect you to micromanage me, I'm out, right? And these guys, they'll be out quick,
We've seen that too.
and yeah, you'll get burned, right? But know that ahead of time, right? And be honest about it. If that's your leadership style, be cool, own it, right? There's almost no wrong leadership style except for bad, right? As long as you're open, loving, right? You have a good vision, you're clear, you set your values, and that's really who you are. Run with it, right? And find those people that can work with you, right? There's no perfect person except for
Okay.
me, right? And you. So, and you're more perfect than me, right? And some other people maybe slightly more perfect than you, but I doubt there's any. So, being that perfect that we are, we know where we stand. The Once you have that vision down, you got the right people working with you, you have a clear path, you have a strategy, you've outlined the process. For me, discovery documents, uh, project documents, design, clear architecture requirements with a whole path, including explanation of any complex functions that are not obvious, and detailed off of the interactions you expect and the level of development you expect, along with where you plan to go in stages, really is going to set you up for success. Sticking to that, trying not to change things too early, because here's the biggest one of the biggest mistakes, not the biggest, but one of the biggest mistakes I see is you design your MVP And before you
Okay.
even actually test it, you get cold feet and you start changing things. And this changing things is hard on developers, it's hard on your designers, and it's hard on you because you're making assumptions without testing it and you're wasting a lot of money. Be brave, make sure you develop that MVP that is realistic and as easy to get to as possible. Get there, then get the feedback. Make sure you get enough feedback to have substantial support of your changes before you make it. Right. The
Yeah.
probably the third biggest mistake I see is um, um, founders get feedback from one or two people that are really important to them. Generally, one person, they get something that's conflicting with their mission, but they change their process or app anyways. And then it really changes their whole process just because they got some feedback that they shouldn't have from somebody they respect or a pushy stakeholder or somebody that had more power authority than they really deserved or didn't have the vision, the long-term vision that the CEO should be having. It's hard to balance, but this good mix takes a little experience and practice, but you'll get it. Have fun with it.
That was an insightful remark, yeah. And how do you approach risk management when launching a new platform?
Mm. Risk management can be very hard, right? So you do your risk analysis and you look at the factors that are really risky, right? I prioritize risks based off of things that are going to do long-term damage to the reputation, things that I cannot go back and change. I look at economical risks and where my model may fall apart if I'm relying on other systems. I look
Okay.
at social economic risks, right? And these are the social economic risks tend to be my lowest factor, but I consider them, right? You have to be prepared for changing the economy up or down, and you have to have that kind of flexibility built in. So I think for me, the biggest
Okay.
thing about risks is two things: acknowledging it, creating a plan, and third, going agile so that you can change things quickly. You can handle a lot of risks as long as they didn't destroy your brand reputation, right? Like Budweiser did, and or maybe the Olympics did this year with the opening, and and going back and looking at what's real risks versus what are considerations and best approaches.
Great. And what's your process for gathering and incorporating your feedback into your platform development?
I get as much feedback as possible. I thank everybody for their feedback, good, positive, negative. Anybody who took the time to leave me a nasty message is my friend, right? Even if they're being a troll, right? I like that somebody gave me an alternative viewpoint that I did or maybe didn't consider. Maybe I did consider it, but if I didn't consider it, this is gold, right? Even if it comes off nasty. And sometimes it's not that the message is really that nasty. It's just I'm very fragile and I'm happen to be a snowflake that day. And, it just hurt my feeling, right? Step back and look at what you can learn from it. Put yourself in the person's shoes and make the assumption that they, at some level, hope to get a better return for either their time or value. And they're trying to give you some insight on that or to express that. When
Absolutely correct.
here's something that's important to realize: if somebody asks for a refund, right, it's usually
Yes.
not enough just to give them a refund, right? If somebody really, if your product really didn't deliver on a promise, right, and somebody here's what you have the cost that they put into it. That's a fixed cost, you can return that. But how do you return somebody's time, the time that they put into
Exactly.
it,
That they missed it
their
out.
hopes and aspirations, and maybe their reputation capital if they relied on your product and shared that with their friends and it turned out to be a bummer, right? How do you make up for that? Now, doing that well is going to do a couple things. It's going to give that customer a chance to have worked out their anger, right? If you were more angry at yourself for not to have delivered that joyous experience and you made up for it in spades, and they're like, well, dude, that's too much, right? Okay, I was angry, but I'll take it, but okay, you do, yeah, stop hitting yourself, right? That's when you made up for it, right? And now they may come back later, right? Now they may recommend their friends, like, okay, they may say, oh, well, it wasn't for me, you big jerk, but my sister would like this, right?
Yeah.
And my friends and this. So one of the things I like to do, if I have to give a refund, I give the refund quick. I apologize. I do something to make up for it. I give them a couple free subscriptions or some promotions for their friends, right? If it was great, I let them know how I plan to make it not happen in the future. And whatever I have to do, I maybe recommend them another app or something, right? The strongest thing you
That's
can ever
great.
do is if you have a flashlight app and they wanted a strobe light app, right? And they said, I'm so angry that you didn't deliver on this. You're like, wow, man, that's such a great, valuable feedback. I'm going to incorporate this in the future. But meanwhile, here's this app. Here's a link to it. And here's 3 coupons for your friend. And this app, it's like a $5 thing for life. Here's $5 to next year. You can buy that one.
Exactly. You make up for it one way or another, and you make your client or
Well, yeah,
your
you go
customer
way above and beyond, and people generally, I like to look at the goodness of people
happy.
and
Exactly. That's very
say,
generous.
yeah, yeah, and people like to reciprocate, right? You can take somebody you can take positive or negative feedback, multiply it. There's a joke. Women,
Mhm.
right? This is an old joke. Women, they're special, right? You give them something and they multiply it. Men,
Yes.
you give a woman a sperm, she gives you children. You give her a house, she gives you a home. You give her trouble, she gives you hell. Right? So people are like that, right? They want to reciprocate. They want to multiply, right? Everybody wants to make something better in their soul. Everybody wants to do good and do better, right? To return a favor, to
Absolutely.
be, like the king, right? To give better gifts. So give people the opportunity, and feedback is that window.
Great. And thank you so much, Philip, for sharing these invaluable insights with us on building your own platforms from identifying market gaps to effective monetization. Your expertise provides us a comprehensive guide for our audience. Do you have something to say to them?
Thank you, Rima. It's been a real pleasure sharing these strategies, sharing our experiences, and I hope the viewers and entrepreneurs out there find this useful and feel inspired to start building their own platforms, apps, stores, and that this is the window to them to really becoming successful entrepreneurs, businessmen and women, and the first steps to really becoming the next billionaires that we know.
Absolutely. Thank you so much to our viewers and you for joining us today. If you have any questions or would like to learn more, feel free to reach out to us and like and subscribe to our channels, Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube for more insights. Until next time, stay safe and secure. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody. Happy building.
Bye.